Hey guys, welcome back to Baddie and a Book. My name is Gabby. It has been a long time since I've said that. But today we're going to be talking about all the books that I've read this year so far, and we ain't got no more time to waste, so let's just go ahead and jump right into the very first book that I read this year. The first book that I picked up this year is called Finding Yvonne by Brandy Colbert. Now this book I ended up rating 3 stars. It is a YA, I guess, coming of age story in a way. I gave it 3 stars because I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I remember really having a really good experience with it, but I just don't remember anything about it, to be honest. I almost forgot that I read it. If it wasn't for this video and me tracking all of my books in my book journal, I would have had no idea that I even read this book because it's been so long and it just wasn't very memorable. Dallas, come on. She down. She down. But yeah, anyways, like I said, it just wasn't very memorable. It was a solid 3 stars. It was really enjoyable. If you like a quick YA, I would recommend it. It wasn't a bad experience at all. It just wasn't the most memorable book of this year so far. Then, one of my favorites this year so far, and I was so happy, this is one of the BookTok books that actually was a success for me, and that is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This one deserves all the hype. It was the cutest love story between Bree and Archer, and I loved everything about it. It was a solid 5 star for me. This was a book that I read, and the next couple of ones are books that I've read in my Reading Larry Reads' 5-star reads. And so not only is it a BookTok recommendation, but it also was recommended by Larry Reads, and both of those two in combo, this was a hit. Most definitely. I would definitely recommend this to anybody. I'm really excited to pick up Travis because Travis is a character. Travis is a character in this book, and they did create a book around him. Now in this book he is kind of unlikable in a way, but I'm really excited to eventually pick up that book to see if Mia can kind of give us a different side to Travis that we didn't see in this book, and kind of see if my perception of Travis does change. But again, solid 5-star read for me. I absolutely ate this book up. Like, I read it so quickly, and I was really so happy that this one ended up being such a success for me after all of the fails from BookTok specifically. Then the next one was Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This was the first book that I picked up by Penelope Douglas, and I really liked this book. I enjoyed this one as well. This one followed Misha and Ryan. I gave this one 5 stars. I might have to adjust that because I don't remember a whole lot about this book. It's been so long since I've read it, but I'm gonna trust my original rating of this book and continue to give it the 5 stars for right now. This book was really fucking good, and this one was just a really good read. I love the cover of this one as well. This one is one of my favorites. I also am a little biased towards this book because I only paid $1 for this book, which shout out to Barnes & Noble because I only paid $1 for it. But yeah, definitely another 5 star and one that I definitely recommend. The next book that I picked up in the same vlog, and this was the last book that I picked up in this particular vlog, was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This one was actually one of the few books that I've read so far that actually kind of had me a little teary-eyed. It wasn't like sobbing or nothing like that, but this one definitely did hit home with the relationship between mother and daughter in this one. If you don't know, this one follows a woman who just got out of prison and she's trying to reconnect with her daughter and goes through different obstacles to try to do that. I really loved the conflicts that the main character had to go into and go through. It really had you pull in your heartstrings in multiple different ways, and also in multiple different directions as well. For me, I know a big part of this, and if I remember correctly, I was very torn between being empathetic to both sides, the parties that were trying to keep her away from her daughter, and then also her with trying to reconnect with her daughter. So this one was a very good one. This one was one of the few Colleen Hoover books as well that actually gave me a little bit of emotions, because I know that a lot of people were saying that Ugly Love and It Ends With Us were giving them the feels and the emotions and they were sobbing. I didn't have that experience, so this one was the first one that kind of hit my heartstrings a little bit. This one is not quite my favorite Colleen Hoover book, but it's definitely like top three so far. Then the next couple of books were part of another vlog that I did, and let me tell you, tell you, this one was a 5-star read. This one is one of my favorite reads so far. There were just so many moving parts in this story that I absolutely loved. I think I might have a thing for YA books, maybe just because they're so easy to get through, and then when they're done right, like they're done right, if you know what I mean. So this one is called Off the Record by Cameron Garrett. This one was hands down a 5-star read for me. Not only is the cover absolutely beautiful, but like I said, there was a lot of different moving parts in this story. There was a lot of things that were touched on and touched on appropriately for a YA novel. I know some of the YA novels that I've read so far, it's questionable on whether or not it's YA. Like, some of the books have taken me back a little bit because I'm like, should this be a YA? Like, is this really YA? But this one, it appropriately touched on heavy topics without it becoming too inappropriate for a younger audience, which I absolutely loved. This is something that I can recommend to like my teenage cousins, my teenage peers, and things of that nature. So I really absolutely love this book. I love the main character in this book as well. She was extremely likable, extremely relatable. Even though we're like 10 years apart, pretty much anybody can read this book and relate to it in some way, shape, or form, which I thoroughly appreciated from this particular author. This is probably like a top 3 read for me this year so far. So absolutely loved it. Absolutely recommend if you haven't read it already. And I'm so surprised that this one isn't talked about much. Like, it's not talked about really anywhere. I don't see this talked about anywhere, nor this author either, which I think she deserves more hype. But yeah, 5 out of 5. One of my favorites this year so far. Y'all see this? Hey boy. Ew, don't lick my face. And the next book I read in that same vlog was Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. This one didn't quite hit the mark as much as the first one did. Regardless, this one was a 4-star read for me. Still a really good one. This one touched on some heavy topics, another YA. I really loved the conversations that were had in this book. And then again, with talking about heavy subjects, with keeping it age appropriate for someone who picks up a YA book. The next 3 books that I read were in my reading my Colleen Hoover books for 24 hours or something like that to try to get through my TBR. So it's the 3 Colleen Hoover books that I read in that vlog. The first one that I picked up was Verity by Colleen Hoover. This one is a thriller, one of her thriller-y. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a thriller, but it's got more of a thriller-y vibe versus her other romance novels or contemporary novels. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. There were just some things that just didn't quite make it a 5-star read for me specifically, especially comparing her other books and comparing other Colleen Hoover books specifically. I just didn't quite hit the mark for me. If you watched my vlog, you know exactly how I feel about this book, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but if you're looking for a thriller-y kind of vibe, I would definitely recommend this one. The next one is more of a mother-daughter dynamic, and also like it's just a really messy adult situation, if I'm being quite honest. So you have kind of those 2 dynamics. This one was dual POV, and you're getting the mother and daughter's POVs throughout the book, which I thought was very interesting. This one is called Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. This one was another really, really good one. I gave this one 4 stars, another easy read. Colleen Hoover is an author that I know for a fact that I'm going to fly through her books. There hasn't been a single book that I've picked up that I've been slow at reading or haven't been anticipating picking the book back up if I am reading it throughout the day or throughout the week. But there's just a messy ass situation that happens in this book, and it was wild. It was a wild ride, I'm not even gonna lie. And then the last book that I read for this particular vlog, and I think is my favorite by far, my favorite Colleen Hoover book so far, and that is Hopeless. I ate it up. I ate it up. I ate it up. This was so fucking good, and I'm really excited to pick up Losing Hope. I don't even know why I haven't picked it up just yet, or why I haven't bought it just yet, but this book was so damn good. It was so damn good. And this one, we only get a single POV, so Losing Hope is the guy's perspective of what happened. So pretty much the story retold in the guy's perspective, which I'm 100% down for. This one was 5 out of 5 stars for me, hands down. This is another, also a book from Colleen Hoover that I can actually see myself rereading, which is why it was such an easy 5-star for me. I love this book. I love the relationship with the characters. I loved, even though this one has a little bit of a longer book in comparison to some of her other ones. This one was closer to 400 page versus like the 300 pages that Colleen Hoover usually writes. This one is definitely worth every single page in this one. Then a part of that other vlog that I read, the Cameron Garrett books, I also read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I really love this book. This one was also a 5-star read for me. This one is a romance, second chance romance. There's also, I would check the trigger warnings on this one as well because there is something that is pretty heavily talked about in this book. But this one was really good. It does give us dual POV, so we do get both of the characters' perspectives, which I love me a good dual POV book in general. The cover on this one is absolutely stunning. I wouldn't say that this is the Kennedy Ryan book that I am just like blown away by. Like, I'm still on the hunt for her, specifically reading all of her books to figure out which book is going to be the one that's like, this is it, like this is it. And this one was it, but it wasn't it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was it, but it wasn't it, if that makes any sense. So 5-star reads, most definitely. Definitely recommend this one. Second chance romance. If you like second chance romances, you will love this one. Next couple of books that I read, I had a little bit of a thriller moment so far this year. So I read 2 books. I read The Couple Next Door and The Silent Patient. The Couple Next Door, what did I rate this one? I rated this one 4 stars. It was a really good book. I read it pretty quickly. This one follows Anne and Marco, and essentially, long story short on this one is that they went next door to a party after having a baby. I think the baby was like a couple months old or something like that. And while they were next door, the baby goes missing, and they're trying to uncover what happened to the baby. And so we kind of get a little bit of the mystery of kind of like who did it, and then we're also kind of seeing the relationship between Anne and Marco while they're going through this, and how they handle the situation, and you know, kind of how it takes a toll on them because their baby is gone. This one was pretty good. It wasn't like the greatest thriller that I've ever read in my life, but it was really good. Definitely recommend it. I'm not going to say much more about this one because with thrillers, it's really just best for you to go in blind to a thriller to kind of get the gist of what it's about, but to just go into it and just go for it rather than getting a whole bunch of details about the book. The next book is the next book is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I think I am the last person on planet Earth to actually finally fucking read this book, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. This one was one that I gave 4.5 stars. Yeah, I gave this book 4.5 stars. It just wasn't quite hitting that mark for me to give it a 5-star, but I really enjoyed this book. I'm so glad that I finally picked it up, and I definitely recommend it. If you've been on BookTube or BookTok, you know what this book is about, so I definitely recommend it. I'm not even really going to go into detail on this one, but if you haven't read this one, I definitely recommend it. Now the next one is kind of a random one. This one was one that was popular on BookTube for a little while, a while back, and it was honestly very random. I had a day where I needed to go take care of some errands, take my car into the shop, and you know, anytime you go into the shop to go get your car maintenance, or you go to get it fixed, or whatever the case may be, you're gonna be there for a minute. So I had this book readily available, so I started to read it, and that was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. I like this book so much more than I thought I was gonna like it. For one, I really loved the main character, and her friend, her best friend. Their relationship and the way that the author wrote their dialogue and how they interacted with each other, it was so funny. Like, they had me like laughing, they had me giggling, they had me like, you know, really feeling their relationship, and that was my favorite part of this book. Okay, so this book, the young girl, she's a young black girl, and she's probably like 21 maybe, and she is a babysitter or a nanny for a white couple. Now this couple, they end up having some kind of emergency, and they're like, hey, I know it's your night off, but can you please come and watch our daughter? You know, we want to make sure that, you know, she is safe. Can you get her out of the house for a little bit? So she comes to the house, gets her out, gets the daughter, goes to this grocery store, and while she's at the grocery store, an incident happens where she is accused of kidnapping the young girl because she is a black girl, and the little girl that was with her is a little young white girl. So with that being said, you're kind of following that storyline, and you're following how that all unravels, all the bullshit that comes with that, as you know. And this book was just really fucking good. And again, my favorite part of this book was the relationship with the girl and her best friend. Like, I loved that part of it so much. Like, it was just amazing, absolutely amazing. So definitely, if you haven't read this book already, I definitely recommend this one. Again, this one was a 4-star read for me, easily a 4-star read for me. Now the next book, I think this one is my favorite book that I've read this year so far. And I'm biased because I love the hero in this book. And I'm surprised I haven't heard so many people talk about this book. And if all of her other books have a hero that's similar to this hero, I'm literally gonna start eating that shit up because I love this book. This book is a thickie and I read every single page. I did my due diligence and I read every single fucking page and ate that shit up because I love the hero in this book so damn much. And that is Forever and Never by Lucy Score. Brick Callen just set the bar extremely fucking high for my book boyfriends, and I loved every part of how protective he was. A lot of characteristics that she portrayed for Brick Callen specifically, I absolutely loved, and I loved this book. Like I said, I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about this book, but I absolutely love this book. If you haven't read this book, then you definitely need to read this book. I'm gonna segue right into my next book and say that if you liked The Hero and It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, you will definitely love this book. Like, this book, they're like, the heroes are very similar in a way, and I love that. So if you liked this book, you're gonna love this book as well. Definitely recommend. And since we segued into the next one, the next books that I read was for that reading vlog that I did where I read all of Taya's favorite couples. The first book that I read in that was It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I'm surprised that I liked this book as much as I did because I didn't think that I would. I wouldn't say that Piper in this book, which is the main character, is super relatable. She gives very Hollywood rich white girl vibes, and I didn't think that I was going to like this book that much because I can't really relate to that. Can't really relate to that. But I love this book. Like, I love this book. I loved reading about Piper. I ate this shit up. And then not to mention Brendan, he was like, I read this book right after I finished reading this one. So this one was like icing on the cake for me. Brandon didn't quite live up to Brick Callen, so he's still like a strong like second place. You know what I'm saying? But I love this book. This book was so damn cute. I loved everything about it. I loved, it's giving, I would say this book is giving like Pride and Prejudice vibes, kind of like that kind of thing. I'm not going to say too much about this book because everyone and their mother has read this book. I'm like, again, the last person in the world to read this book, but I absolutely love this couple. This one was a hit for me. I will probably end up reading this book and also Forever and Never again at some point. Definitely this one because it's my favorite. I'm going to have to relive all of those moments. But yeah, this one was really good. And then the next one that I read was Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. First of all, this cover is absolutely amazing. I'm really excited that I actually started this series already. I had been waiting to do that for so long. This one is following a basketball couple, so it's a basketball romance in a way. I'm not going to say too much about this one. Just read it. Definitely check the trigger warnings for this one. I will say that there is an author's note in this one in the very beginning, so you don't have to search too much for it. So if you're buying the book and you're in store, I would recommend opening up and just reading it really quick because there was a specific part that was a really hard to get through. If you watch the vlog, you'll understand what I'm saying. But it was very hard to get through and very hard to read, and it was done. It wasn't like too big of a part of the book. Like it didn't take up most of the book, or it didn't take up any big chunks of the book. But like I said, it was very hard to read. So I would recommend looking up the trigger warnings for that. This one, I ended up giving this one a 4.5 star. Wasn't quite at that 5-star mark for me, but because I did like Before I Let Go a lot better than this one. I also didn't necessarily love the couple in this one. Like I wasn't like in love with them. I wasn't like super rooting for them. It was a vibe, but it wasn't like I was like, they need to be together, like I want them together. I wasn't like super rooting for them, so that's why it hit like that 4.5 star mark. But needless to say, I still recommend it. Most definitely. Like, this one was a good one. And then the last book that I read in that vlog was Beach Read by Emily Henry. And if you watch that vlog, you'll know that this book was a disappointment for me. I was very bored during this book. Like, I didn't care about the couple. I didn't care about the storyline. I didn't care about their, what they were writing about. Like, I just didn't care. It didn't hit the mark for me. I'm really hoping that I'll read some of the other Emily Henry books, because I do have 2 other Emily Henry books, and I'm hoping that one of those will hit the mark for me, because this book is everywhere. It's hyped up. It did not live up to the hype for me specifically, but I'm hoping that one of the other ones will hit that mark for me. This one, I ended up giving this one a 3 star. I feel like a 2 star would be like kind of harsh, and a 2 star would be for like a book. I would reserve a 2 star for a book that like I DNF'd, but I just didn't care. I just did not care. So maybe I should take this down to like a 2.5. And now we're at our last couple books. So then I finally read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I am not going to say anything about this book because you just need to read it. It's all over the internet everywhere. It's a YA. It's a super easy read. It's a mystery, murder mystery type of novel. I do have the second book and I'm really excited to pick that one up eventually. This one, I did give this one a 4 star, I believe. I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. But I did give this one a 4 star. I'm excited to pick up the second one and I definitely recommend it. And then the very, very, very last book that I ended off, at least most recently, I'm currently reading another book, but this one is officially completed. I finally picked up Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, and I have the original cover. As y'all know, these covers are no longer a thing, so I'm glad that I got it when I did, even though my cover is kind of like a little bit beat up. I kind of took this book with me everywhere and read it kind of everywhere, and it was in my purse for a very long time, so it did get a little bit beat up. But I would say everything that they say about this book, the drama, the toxicity, all of that is absolutely true. For me, I gave this one a 4 star. I'm really excited to carry on with the series. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me. Like, it wasn't something that I was like, this is it, you know, but I have a soft place in my heart for this book. This book was very, oddly, very cozy for me. Like, it was a very cozy comfort read for me, but there is no true like plot line. So that's why I'd say for me that this was just more of a cozy read for me. What it's giving is more so you're literally getting to know these 2 characters and you're following them on how they love each other and how toxic they are together. And it's kind of like, how do I say this? Like, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you start to grow an attachment. I started to grow an attachment to these characters. Like, I started to grow like a cozy, comfortable attachment to these characters. So I'm really excited to pick up the rest of the books. I have Daisy Hates and then the second Magnolia Parks book. I did not get the 4th book before they changed the covers, and I'm so sad that I didn't do that. So yeah, those are all of the books that I have read this year so far. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.